All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a seriously relentless story of betrayal, tactical genius, and just pure, unadulterated willpower. We're going to trace the epic chronological journey of Ghislaine Parnagium, literally from his gruesome death all the way to his absolute domination of the continent. So grab your notes because the pacing of this story is absolutely wild, and we are breaking down exactly how a fallen king engineers his bloody second chance.
So picture this for a second. You're a legendary mercenary king, a swordmaster with unmatched skill. But you've just been outmaneuvered. Ghislaine Parnagium finds himself completely cornered, his entire family wiped out, and in his final moments, he gets decapitated by Idun of House Delling. But instead of fading into the afterlife, Ghislaine opens his eyes and realizes his head is actually still attached. He's regressed. He is right back in his frail 16-year-old body, exactly 1 year before the total ruin of his house.
Now, the immediate problem he faces here is just staggering. Mentally, Ghislaine has the tactical genius and the combat instincts of a battle-hardened king. But physically, he's trapped in the body of a weak, despised teenager whose noble family is completely broke. I mean, he's got the mind of a literal god of war, but a body that gets winded just taking a swing with a sword. He absolutely has to close that gap, and he needs to do it right now. To survive the threats coming for him, he needs power. Enter mana cores. In this universe, mana is basically a supernatural energy system that lets you push way past normal human limits. And since Ghislaine totally lacks the time to build his body up naturally, he goes for a highly unstable, literally self-destructive technique to force his mana cores to grow. This gives him explosive, overwhelming power, but it severely damages his fragile body in the process. And it's exactly this high-stakes gamble he takes right out of the gate to survive a sudden orc ambush. I mean, he literally throws himself off a cliff just to force his own soldiers to fight back.
Okay, so that brings us to the first major turning point, the Festival of Blood. Knowing his sister Helena was destined to be assassinated at this exact festival, Ghislaine intercepts the killers, Jamal, Philip, and their boss, Frank. Using his tactical mind, he isolates them, tosses a simple candle explosive for a split-second distraction, and just executes them with this lethal cinematic precision.
You have to remember, Ghislaine has lived through this exact tragedy before, and he made a promise that this time would be different. During that intense fight with the assassin boss, Frank, Ghislaine gets pushed to his absolute limits and violently unlocks his third mana core. He completely obliterates Frank, and in doing so, he doesn't just save his sister, he actively prevents a premature continental war that the treacherous Count Desmond was trying to spark just to wipe out the Parnagium family.
But hey, saving your family isn't enough when you're preparing for war. He needs capital. And what better way to get it than a massive public spectacle? He completely manipulates his arrogant giant of a cousin, Cain, into a public duel. Ghislaine sets up an arena betting market and wagers 2,000 gold coins on himself. And of course, nobody in the crowd actually believes this weak 16-year-old stands a chance.
But he doesn't just beat Cain, he utterly humiliates the guy. Halfway through the duel, just to prove how massive the skill gap really is, Ghislaine literally throws his sword away. He proceeds to brutally beat his giant cousin down with his bare hands, fists over steel. It's an absolute beatdown that wins him the 2,000 gold and, honestly, the newfound respect of the entire city.
Still, 2,000 gold is pocket change when you're trying to fund an army. So, Ghislaine marches right up to his treacherous fiancée, Lady Amelia, who, remember, he knows is going to betray his family in the future. He flat-out blackmails her. When she panics and orders her deadly, mana-wielding bodyguard Burnuf to kill him, Ghislaine just engages in this hyper-fast, incredibly tactical sword fight. He defeats Burnuf and essentially forces Amelia to hand over a staggering 20,000 gold coins for his silence.
With that 20,000 gold secured, his war machine officially goes online. Using his knowledge of the future, he tracks down a guy named Gillian, a legendary retired mercenary, and manages to cure his daughter of a so-called incurable disease. This immediately earns him Gillian's absolute, unquestioning loyalty. And with Gillian by his side, they hire the ruthless, mad dog Cerberus mercenaries, instantly amassing an elite, hardened army of 200 fighters.
But here's the thing, an army needs continuous funding, which brings up a pretty terrifying question. How do you conquer the impossible beast forest? This place is a monster-infested hellscape right on the border of his territory, and nobody ever returns from it alive. But Ghislaine knows a secret. Deep inside this forest lies an untouched fortune that could fund his empire forever.
His strategy for taking the forest is as brutal as it is simple. Chop the trees, kill the monsters, secure the rune stones. It's just relentless, lumberjack-style warfare. And Ghislaine isn't cowering in the back issuing orders. He leads his mercenaries from the very front. He's out there bleeding with them, fighting through invisible monsters and endless swarms, which earns him their absolute, unwavering respect.
The climax of this whole expedition is this massive, incredibly coordinated battle against the ruler of the forest, a giant, poison-scaled blood python. A single strike from this thing is lethal. But Ghislaine's newly unified mercenary army works in perfect sync. They distract the beast, create a tiny opening, and Ghislaine steps in to deliver the final crushing blow. The beast goes down, and the ultimate prize is theirs.
This victory triggers an unbelievable leap in Ghislaine's resources. I mean, he goes from being a bankrupt noble to having a decent fortune from extorting Amelia to hitting the absolute maximum jackpot in the Beast Forest. And these runestones, they aren't just shiny rocks. They are highly concentrated magical batteries. They're literally the key to saving his entire territory from the impending Northern War.
And this is where his tactical genius extends way beyond just swinging a sword. He actually uses the remains of the forest monsters and those magical runestones to supercharge his territory's agriculture. He rolls out a genius three-step method: spreading python bone powder for intense nutrients, planting mana-infused rye, and then applying runestone-powered compression sigils to accelerate the growth. Just like that, he instantly solves his territory's food and funding crisis.
So, with the logistics totally sorted, he pivots right back to military might. Ghislaine operates on this terrifying core philosophy. One knight trained with mana is worth more than 100 soldiers. Normally, generating a mana knight takes years of training. But Ghislaine, he uses agonizing runestone compression seals to force his 200 regular mercenaries to awaken their mana in just one single month. It is an insane, ridiculously painful strategy, but it works. He creates an unstoppable elite force.
And honestly, they finish their training literally just in time, because the Northern War finally erupts. The treacherous noble factions, led by Count Desmond and Lord Cabali, march their massive siege armies to wipe out the Perdium family once and for all. They fully believe they are attacking a weak, bankrupt house. They have absolutely no idea what is waiting for them.
Ghislaine's conquest is rapid and it is ruthless. On day 1, his forces completely ambush Desmond's troops. By week 2, his newly minted mana knights drop straight behind enemy lines, using monster hide camouflage to infiltrate and crush Cabali's castle from the inside out. Within a month, Ghislaine literally cuts Cabali in half, absorbs his territory, and secures total control of all the northern mineral wealth.
Now, to lock in this military victory, he needs solid political power, which brings us to the eternal punishment disease. This is an incurable, agonizing magical condition that leaves these rose-like marks on the victim. And it just so happens that the most powerful political figure in the kingdom, Marquis Branford, has a daughter suffering from this exact disease.
Leveraging his future knowledge once again, Ghislaine cures the Marquis's daughter. But in exchange, he demands ultimate political authority, elevating himself from a lowly noble to the officially appointed northern commander. This move directly pits him against the faction of Duke Deline, the very traitors who were secretly manipulating the kingdom, and, let's not forget, the people who murdered Ghislaine in his past life. The pieces are finally on the board.
But just as he secures his power, we hit this terrifying climax. What happens when an evil spirit tries to possess a regressed mercenary king? During this really intense battle with suicidal enemy mages, a dark, ancient spirit manages to infiltrate Ghislaine's body. It plans to use his mind's trauma against him, break his will, and steal his incredibly powerful physical form.
But the spirit makes a massive fatal miscalculation. It looks into Ghislaine's past life memories hoping to torture him, but instead, it witnesses sheer horror. It sees the brutal murder of his sister, his father pinned down by 500 swords, the apocalypse of the entire continent, and his own gruesome decapitation. The memories are so overwhelmingly violent, so inhumanly traumatic, that the demon itself completely panics and actually begs to escape his mind.
But Ghislaine refuses to let the spirit leave. Actually, scratch that. He doesn't just trap it. He devours its dark energy, violently awakening his 4th mana core. His eye turns pitch black, his aura expands massively, and with pure, overwhelming power, he completely obliterates the enemy mages that the duchy sent after him. It is a crazy power-scaling milestone.
What a wild journey, right? He has evolved from a weak, decapitated 16-year-old into this wealthy, commanding, four-corps northern commander. But the ultimate mastermind, Duke Deline, is still out there, and the true Continental War is really only just beginning. With the northern forces united and his true powers awakening, how will Gisland survive what comes next? You'll just have to keep exploring this incredible story to find out. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep your curiosity sharp.